Perhaps one of the topics you have encountered the most misinformation about on the internet is self-sabotage. It is true. Behavioral inconsistencies caused by self-sabotage can destroy your entire life. They can put your professional and personal life at risk, sometimes even discarding all your achievements and efforts. Yet, the reality is that many people have little to no understanding of what self-sabotage actually is, how to manage it, and most importantly, how it explains certain everyday behaviors that they perform without understanding why. For instance, why do you lie even though you know it's wrong? Why do you continue a specific behavior that you desperately want to stop, even though you know it harms you? To understand these patterns, one first needs to understand the concept of the self. The term self essentially refers to one's own sense of I, a personal identity, or the experience of being oneself. Neuroscience and psychology, from their various schools of thought, have long tried to define what it means to have a self, to be an I. But the truth is, many people never truly stop to think about who they are. Consider this. Who are you? Most of us never consciously contemplate this question. We identify ourselves by external characteristics. I am an engineer. I am 30 years old. I am a lawyer. I am 29. I am from the south of Brazil. These are facts that situate us in space and time, but they do not define our essence. They are merely descriptors of our external reality. So, who are you really? I am not trying to make a philosophical video here about the meaning of life or identity. My goal is simply to get you to think beyond the automatic behaviors that dominate most people's daily lives. Do you know yourself? Not superficially, not in terms of your job or your region, but deeply. Are you impulsive? Are you affectionate? Are you quick-tempered? Are you introverted or extroverted? Are you empathetic, attentive, or more self-centered? These traits define who you truly are, not the external labels society assigns to you. And when inconsistencies arise between your inner self and the context you inhabit, these discrepancies generate what we perceive as self-sabotage. You may think you are sabotaging yourself intentionally, but the real cause often lies in the mismatch between who you are and the environment around you. For example, consider someone who wants to start dieting, reduce alcohol consumption, or quit smoking. Suppose this person is naturally impulsive, a trait they may not have consciously acknowledged because they live on autopilot like 99% of people. Now imagine this person is constantly surrounded by people who drink, indulge in high-calorie foods, or otherwise reinforce behaviors counter to their goals. The result is a natural inconsistency between intention and environment. Suddenly, the individual perceives themselves as self-sabotaging because their behavior seems to contradict their goals. In reality, this isn't simply a matter of weakness or lack of discipline. It's the natural outcome of living in a context that does not support their personal traits and objectives. This phenomenon can be generalized to various aspects of life. Take attention and focus, for instance. Some individuals struggle slightly with attention. They may require more effort or particular conditions to concentrate effectively. If such a person works or studies in a chaotic environment with constant interruptions, notifications, bright screens, disorganized spaces, their innate traits clash with their context. The outcome: they cannot complete tasks efficiently, and again, self-sabotage is perceived. This perception is real and functional. The individual genuinely wants to achieve a goal, but faces an environment incompatible with their needs. Thus, self-sabotage often arises from a mismatch between personal characteristics and external context, rather than from a deficiency of willpower. Understanding this principle highlights the first critical step in managing self-sabotage: self-knowledge. You must truly understand who you are. This might seem difficult because life bombards us with distractions, short dopamine hits from videos, social media, or other immediate gratifications. But to genuinely tackle self-sabotage, reflection is necessary. Ideally, one would undergo therapy, which provides a professional framework for self-exploration. Therapy allows you to dissect behaviors, patterns, and emotional responses with the guidance of trained professionals. But since not everyone has access to therapy, self-reflection and introspection are the initial steps you can take. Even this practice places you ahead of countless others who live entirely on autopilot, constantly reinforcing behaviors that perpetuate self-sabotage. Self-awareness alone, however, is not sufficient. Once you understand who you are, the next step is to actively align your environment and routines with your traits. Returning to the earlier examples, if you are impulsive and trying to maintain a diet, consciously adjusting your environment to reduce temptation, avoiding certain social situations, keeping unhealthy foods out of sight, or choosing supportive companions can dramatically reduce the occurrence of self-sabotage. Similarly, if focus is a challenge, structuring your workspace to minimize distractions, using productivity techniques, or blocking notifications can create a context conducive to your natural capacities. Self-sabotage often dissolves not when we try harder, but when we adapt our surroundings to fit our real selves. This approach requires acknowledging our inherent tendencies without judgment. Impulsivity, introversion, emotional sensitivity, these are neutral traits. They only become problematic when they interact with incompatible circumstances. By recognizing these traits, we gain power. Impulsivity, for example, does not have to mean poor decision-making. It can be channeled into proactive initiative or creativity if the environment supports it. Attention difficulties do not signal laziness. They indicate a need for deliberate structuring of time and space. The key is context. when your internal traits and external environment are harmonized. Behaviors that once felt like self-sabotage transform into rational responses. Beyond environmental adjustments, understanding the brain's emotional and cognitive processing is immensely beneficial. Neuroscience and psychology provide insights into how emotions are generated, processed, and acted upon. Our brains respond automatically to stimuli, often prioritizing immediate gratification over long-term goals, a mechanism rooted in survival instincts. Recognizing this can help you cultivate a rational awareness of impulses, enabling more deliberate decisions. Tools such as mindfulness, cognitive behavioral strategies, and structured routines allow us to create a buffer between impulse and action, reducing behaviors that we interpret as self-sabotage. In essence, self-sabotage is often a misalignment of automatic brain processes with conscious goals. Awareness and structured intervention are the corrective measures. Practical strategies for addressing self-sabotage often include developing clear routines, defining specific goals, and creating accountability mechanisms. For instance, someone wanting to improve their diet might plan meals in advance, monitor their consumption, and involve supportive friends or mentors. Someone struggling with focus might break tasks into smaller segments, use timers, or designate quiet, organized workspaces. These interventions are not arbitrary. They are designed to reconcile the gap between personal traits and environmental demands. With repeated practice, the brain learns new patterns, and behaviors that once felt contradictory or self-defeating begin to align naturally with conscious objectives. It is also essential to understand that self-sabotage is not inherently malicious or irrational. Often, it emerges as an adaptive response to external conditions. Humans are wired to conserve energy and seek immediate rewards. When goals require delayed gratification, the brain can generate behaviors that appear counterproductive. Recognizing this perspective transforms self-sabotage from a moral failing into a solvable problem. It shifts the focus from self-blame to strategy. How can I structure my life to support my genuine self? How can I align my habits, environment, and routines with the person I truly want to be? Education and structured learning can amplify this understanding. There are platforms and courses that delve into the neuroscience of behavior, emotional processing, and practical tools to manage impulses and improve decision-making. These resources often combine insights from psychology and neuroscience, providing a scientific framework for understanding why we act against our best interests and how to correct it. Even brief engagement with such material can spark transformative insights, empowering individuals to make incremental but meaningful changes. Knowledge, coupled with intentional practice, bridges the gap between understanding self-sabotage theoretically and mitigating it in daily life. In conclusion, self-sabotage is a complex phenomenon rooted in the interplay between who we are and the environments we inhabit. Behavioral inconsistencies arise not necessarily from weakness or lack of effort, but from misalignment between personal traits and external conditions. Recognizing this distinction is the first step in taking control. Self-knowledge, reflection, and adjustment of context and routines are foundational strategies. By understanding ourselves deeply, designing supportive environments, and employing practical interventions, we can reduce the occurrences of self-sabotage and cultivate behaviors that genuinely align with our long-term goals. The journey is ongoing. Awareness alone is not enough. Action must follow. Continuous self-reflection, environmental tuning, and learning about cognitive and emotional processes equip us to live deliberately rather than automatically. Self-sabotage is not an immutable trait. It is a set of behaviors shaped by context, and context can be changed. By committing to this process, we not only improve productivity and health, but also foster a deeper understanding and acceptance of who we are. The first step is introspection. The second is action. In mastering both, the destructive cycle of self-sabotage begins to break down, making space for a life of intentionality, resilience, and genuine achievement. Ultimately, self-sabotage is a mirror reflecting the mismatch between our authentic selves and the world we inhabit. The solution lies not in condemning ourselves for failure, but in methodically aligning our environment, behaviors, and mindset with who we truly are. It is a process of self-discovery, strategic adaptation, and consistent practice. Each small adjustment, choosing supportive companions, structuring workspaces, setting achievable goals, cultivating awareness of impulses, reduces the friction between intention and behavior. Over time, these changes accumulate, reshaping habits and creating a life where self-sabotage becomes a rarity rather than a norm. If you ignore this process and continue living on autopilot, the behaviors that frustrate you will persist. Self-sabotage will continue to erode your ambitions, relationships, and personal satisfaction. But by engaging consciously with these principles, even at a basic level, you set yourself apart from the majority. The journey of self-understanding and contextual alignment is not trivial, but it is profoundly empowering. It transforms self-sabotage from an inevitable flaw into a solvable challenge, making room for growth, achievement, and the authentic expression of your true self.